Hey, it's Jay, and this is episode 3 of the Walk With Me podcast. I'm out on the beach again in front of my house. I hope you are too. Today I'm barefoot. It feels so great. It's so warm, and I'm really excited to walk with you today. This conversation is an extension from episode 2, but you don't have to have listened to episode 2 to jump right in it with me. You know, last week we talked about getting to know each other and answering the question, who are you really right now? And we talked about how that can be a way more difficult question than we ever anticipate it to be, because a lot of the time we're not giving ourselves space to update our identity or discover who we are, or to really allow the identity change to take place in our life in a way that we can even talk about it. And so today's episode is inspired by a deeper reflection in knowing our values and priorities. And if you've done any kind of self-help, you've probably done some kind of values or priority exercise in your life before. And I teach this a little bit differently. I like to think about values and priorities as something that constantly change, and that's something that we need to be reflecting on way more consistently than we do. Because every day we're going through huge changes. And this is so important to me to talk about on our walk today, because I've gone through so much in the past few months, and I'm really honoring how much I've changed. And I want to share with you some of the exercises and coaching techniques that I know and love and use, and also that I teach the women that I coach to use, so that you can feel more confident in identity changes, so that you can feel more clear about who you are and what to focus on and how to spend your time when things are changing in your life and when you feel like you're on rocky, unstable ground because you're trying to do things in a new way. And so I was thinking about this too, because I sent out a survey to over 25,000 women who are on my email list from JeannineYoder.com. And I asked them, what's the biggest thing that you're struggling with that keeps you from launching your dream career, from being able to really trust and do the work that you love and make the transition into that work? And they all say time management, not knowing where to focus. And it's funny because we blame time so much. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to teach you a priority and values exercise that I teach inside Mentor Masterclass, my signature life coach training program for women who are adding life coach training mastery skills to their business, or are becoming a coach and starting a coaching business. And I think you're going to love this exercise, and we're going to be able to leave this conversation today feeling pretty clear about what it is that you want and how to make decisions with more grace and ease in your life starting now. All right, so I'm really excited about this because it's something that I teach inside Mentor Masterclass, and it's all about the values that you're moving toward in your life, because we want to be moving toward who we're becoming and not moving into mediocrity or old, outdated patterns or familial, passed on ancestral beliefs that are not serving our highest good and capacity to grow in our lives and to contribute from our gifts and talents. And of knowing what we're moving toward, the main benefit of knowing your values is that you're going to gain tremendous clarity and focus. But ultimately, you must use the newfound clarity to make consistent decisions and take committed action. So the whole point of discovering your values is to improve the results that you get in those areas that are truly most important to you. Values are priorities that tell you how to spend your time right here and right now. And there are 2 reasons that priorities are important for our lives. The first reason is that time is our most limited resource. Time does not renew itself. Once we spend a day, it's gone forever. And if we waste that day by investing our time in actions that don't produce the results we want, that loss is permanent. You know, we can always learn to earn more money. We can always improve our physical bodies. We can repair broken relationships. But what we can't do is redo yesterday. And if we all had infinite time, then values and priorities would be irrelevant. But at least here on earth, we appear to be mortal with limited lifespans. And if we value our mortal lives, then it's pretty logical to invest them as best we can. And also, you're free to decide what best means to you. The very idea that there's different versions of best or things that appeal to you more than others means that knowing your values will be great benefit to you. I was talking with my husband about this today because he's never done a values exercise, and I thought, I can't trust your goals or have conversation about our goals if you don't know what your values are. Because society, culture, our family, our partners are always inflicting their beliefs and values on us. And if you don't spend time thinking about what is best to you, what is the life that you want, you start creating a life that doesn't feel or look anything like you want, and then you're just a victim, or you're set in the passenger seat, just feeling like something's taking you along on a ride that you're not even enjoying. And so if you don't care about what kind of life you live, and any life sounds good to you, then you can stop listening to this podcast because you don't need this information. But most people can certainly envision lives that are more preferable to them than others. And the second reason that priorities and values matter is that we human beings tend to be fairly inconsistent in how we invest our time and energy. Most of us are really easily distracted by loved ones, or again, what other people say we should be doing, or simply not having a strong relationship to our values or priorities at all. We think that they're shifting, or we don't create focus in our lives, and then we're just pulled in each direction. It's easy for us to fall into the trap of living by different priorities every day. One day you exercise, the next day you slack off. One day you work productively, the next day you're stricken with a bout of laziness. And if we don't consciously use our priorities to stick to a clear and consistent course, we'll naturally drift off course and shift all over the place. And this kind of living yields really poor results. Imagine an airplane that went wherever the wind took it. Who knows where it would eventually land? And the flight itself would likely be pretty stressful and uncertain. And so for these two reasons, limited time and a typically low index of distraction, consciously knowing and living by our values becomes extremely important. Values act as our compass to put us back on course every single day, so that day after day, we're moving in the direction that takes us closer and closer to our definition of the best life that we could possibly live. And the best is your own ideal. But generally, as you get closer to this ideal, you're going to enjoy increasingly positive shades and colors and experiences of better and better, even if you never get to best. And this makes sense because many results in our life exist on a continuum. And we can't live, I've learned especially, which is what shifted my whole identity that I talked about in episode 2, of not caring about a goal or a vision or getting somewhere anymore, because the truth is we never really arrive. It's always a journey. Even when you hit a goal, there's another goal, or the goal wasn't totally clear or didn't look and feel exactly like you knew it would. And so there's always more. It's a continuum, right? Of course, there are some discrete entities like getting married or not married, but your health, your financial status, your relationship intimacy, and level of happiness are genuinely continuous, meaning that they can gradually get better or worse from time to time, and that's the way that it is. So it seems reasonable that more health and happiness and wealth and intimacy and inner peace and love is obviously better than less. But here's the interesting part. Since our time on earth is limited, and since it takes time to move along the continuum through the various betters and versions of better, we usually cannot instantly achieve the state of best. We can't just land our plane just yet. It's still in flight. So everyone has a different definition of what best means to them. For some people, good health is an absolute must. For others, being compassionate is what's most important. And for each of us, these values, every person is at a different point along their continuum. So imagine there are a bunch of planes in the air, each in a different starting location and each having a different destination or airport or version of best. My version of a best life, especially if we do personal development work, if you're like me, constantly going through self-discovery and looking to define by my own terms and redefine and make sure I'm doing things in alignment with my soul and with my purpose here, then our versions are so different. Our purposes are so different. We can't plot the same course to land every plane at its best. And each plane that we're flying, each value, each desire, each thing we're moving toward requires its own individual pace and course. So for a more human example, everyone's in a different state of health right now, and everyone has a different ideal for their best possible health. So the course each person takes from their starting point to their own best state of health is going to be unique. Because of these individual differences, some of your planes will be much farther from their airports than others. If you want to weigh 150 pounds and you currently weigh 155, this plane is within sight of its airport and it's approaching the runway. If you want to become a millionaire and you're flat broke with a low income, that plane is much further away. And because you can't do everything at once, you have to prioritize which planes are most precious to you. And you may not be able to land them all within the span of your lifetime because you probably don't know how long your lifetime will be, nor can you be certain how long it will take to land each of these planes. But realize that the closer you get each plane to its airport, the better that area of your life will be. So I want to begin this process with you of talking about values. And this really resonates with me because for so long I've been really focused on flying the plane of love and passion and success in my career. And that plane has gotten so close to its airport. It's always near the runway lately. And what has suffered is my devotion and priority of health. And where I'm at right now is I'm pregnant. So that's why I'm out here walking with you and getting movement and really wanting to value slowing down in my life and savoring life. And that's a very different value and a very different plane to fly. So I'm shifting. I've jumped from being pilot of that plane, which is now just kind of coasting, and jumped into the plane that's further from its airport. But here's the biggest thing I want you to think about, is that you need to create your own personal hierarchy of values. And I want to warn you that this can be a consuming process, and I want to encourage you to take your time with it. And if you do, then you're going to be able to really be devoted and focused to trusting your intuition and making quick decisions. And you're going to leave this podcast with focused intention and really clear direction for flying the planes that will be and need to be much further along. So the question to ask yourself is, what's truly important to me in my life right now? And the deeper question is right now. Okay, so this is how I do values differently. You've probably had the same set of values, and every time you do this exercise, they're similar. If you're trying to tune deep down into your innately life vision, like if love might always be your value. But what I want you to think about is trying to reduce your responses to a single word or two that encapsulates right now in your life. If you just thought about right now, not for your whole life, but just the next 3 to 6 months, what actually do you want the most? What actually do you value the most right now? And give yourself permission to know that in 3 or 6 months, your values can change. And what this does is this opens up a whole new access to freedom in your life, because let me give you an example. If your list, which I want you to make in your mind if you're walking, and when you get home, write it down. let's say your list of values looks like this. You are valuing in this order: peace, love, intimacy, and security. Peace, love, intimacy, and security. I want you to think about a woman who values peace, love, intimacy, and security. And if every decision that she made, she checked in with herself and said, what should I do in this scenario if I was living in alignment with my values? And her values were peace, love, intimacy, and security. Just create a vision of what that might look like, what this woman's life might look like, the results she might get, the experiences that she might have. Okay, and I want you to think about something, because I want you to list your priorities just like that in your hierarchy order. And, if you're trying to decide which is more important to you, let's say like learning or peace. You're trying to think like, which one, I like learning and peace, they're both on my values list, but which one's more important? You can kind of break it down to a scenario, like which would I rather do, and put a scenario around it. So for learning, like if you want to learn, you would maybe read a book. If you want peace, you would meditate, right? So you could say to yourself, which would I rather do, read a book or meditate right now in my life? Not like, what do I want to force myself to do, but what do I really want to do that would propel me to have the things I want and to be the person that I want to be right now in my life. That will help you to put your list in order. And I usually find that when I create scenarios for the tough to prioritize values, the best ordering becomes clear to me. So I want to continue with that list. So you kind of thought of this woman, her values were peace, love, and intimacy. I think you should have 5 to 10 values on your list. So her full list, let's say, is in this order of priority: peace, love, intimacy, security, comfort, happiness, fun, health, learning, adventure, wealth, and success are last. So she values those things, wealth and success, but when she's making her daily decisions and thinking about how she wants to spend her time and what to do that's important over the next 3 to 6 months, peace, love, and intimacy are the top 3 that are really going to be guiding those decisions. So on the other hand, let's say a different person puts their priorities in the exact opposite order. Same list of priorities and values, different priority order. So this person, I want you to think, what can you tell me about this person? Because when you know a person's values hierarchy, you should have a fair chance of predicting their behavior. So this person's list is success, wealth, and adventure at the top of their list, okay? Success, wealth, and adventure. Moving down the list, the last 3 are peace, love, and intimacy. So now we have someone who's probably very career-oriented, perhaps an entrepreneur. She's going to lead a very different life than the person with peace as her top value. Succeeding and becoming wealthy is more important to this person than personal relationships. So if she has a choice between advancing in her career or going on a family vacation, she'll almost always put her career first. And I want to say again that this is indeed a difficult and challenging process because it's not easy to make these decisions. But if a value appears on your list, then it's definitely important to you. And prioritizing your values really consciously, you're going to be able to rely on them when you need to make important decisions in the future. And if you know what is truly most important to you in life is to experience inner peace, then it will be easier for you to say no to these things that take you away from peace. And now that you have done this exercise, so pause and think about this. What are your values and what is the priority order? And here's the interesting part. You don't have to continue living by the same values. You can consciously change them, even radically if desired. You can go from a person who values peace most highly to one whose top priority is success, or vice versa. You are not your values. You are the thinker of your thoughts, but you are not the thoughts themselves. Your values are your current compass, but they aren't the real you. And is it really possible that you can consciously change your values and use them to be a compass that helps you be able to say, I know how to spend my time. I know what to prioritize. And your behavior and your actions get you incredible results because of this clarity. When you learn how to choose and how to choose consciously your values, then you're able to change your values to get toward your best life, the vision of reaching all the destinations you want to reach in your lifetime, because you shift your values. You see, if I didn't shift my values, if I didn't take time to think about this, I'd be powering through this pregnancy. I'd be prioritizing getting to that $1 million goal I have in my business, and I'd be wasting and wishing away this phase of my life that's calling me consciously to be different. So it's this exercise that helps me to make decisions right now that guide me through a tough identity change, changing patterns that aren't serving me, and feeling good and confident about them instead of beating myself up or living in fear. Because I want you to take a moment right now to get in touch with what this really means to you personally. If you keep living by your current values, then you can expect to get similar results to what you're already getting. Possibly a little better if you apply them more consciously, but most likely there's some part of you that isn't satisfied with where you'll end up if you keep following this same course. So what are the airports where your planes will merely pass over but never land in this lifetime? Will you never have an intimate, loving relationship? Will you never have children? Will you never become wealthy? Will you never develop an outstandingly energetic body? Will you never travel around the world? Will you never develop an outstandingly really able to put your efforts toward your favorite cause? Will you never feel that you're living in total accordance with your spiritual beliefs? So what if all those nevers could suddenly become possible for you? And how can they? They can become possible for you by shifting your values. And here's the key. You don't need to maintain the same values throughout your entire life. You can change them as often as you like. I do this exercise every 3 to 6 months, because when you change your values list and consciously act on it, you change your behavior and therefore your results. And this can lead to incredible new experiences. You know, for example, if your top value is health, and you're already in outstanding physical condition, what would happen if you changed your value to wealth? You could cut back on your workouts for a while and invest tremendous energy into becoming wealthy. Your investment in health would slide a little, but in the short term, it to go about your health. It's a natural embodiment for you. And now in focusing intently on your new top value of wealth, you eventually succeed in becoming wealthy. But eventually, as you become wealthy, making more and more money, beyond a certain point, you may no longer need to focus on wealth. Now you can decide to shift your top value to compassion. So you go out and you use your health and your wealth to compassionately help others. So through this process of consciously shifting your values, you've changed from a gym rat to an entrepreneur to a philanthropist. Huge changes, different identities. You've lived an amazing life, but if you always maintain your original values, you'll only experience that one note, and most of your true potential would remain untapped. And so this is your invitation and your initiation to right now get clear as you walk. Take some time to write when you get home about where you are wanting to focus now, the next 3 to 6 months, and put those values in order. Start by making a list of 10, put them in order, and then ask yourself, are these the planes I want to propel closer toward the airport now? Is this the person I'm really ready to become? Is this the area of my life that really needs to be held accountable to moving closer and to growth and to expansion, and I have never maybe given it the priority that it deserves? And then once you do that, I promise you, your decisions will be clear. And I've been trying to talk about this with my husband lately because mine have shifted, and so I have to communicate with him really clearly the changes he can expect to see and how he can support me in honoring in this new hierarchy of needs, because we're in this together, right? We're partners. And I've also been asking him to do this exercise because then he can chat with me about what his are so I can be in support. And as we've held this conversation, what I've learned is that we have really limiting beliefs that come up because this is new territory. When you shift your values and the hierarchy of values, your actions change, and it's change. And when you're in change, it's uncomfortable and it's new and it's shaky. And you need support. You need support from mentors and people who have held that hierarchy of values and how they've succeeded through it. And you need help in the people you spend your daily life with, supporting you in this change. So that's what this community is about, and that's what I'm here for. Lean into the comments on the blog, and I'm so happy to support you in this shift and in this clarity so that you can really get into that untapped potential, so that you can live a full life, and we can encourage each other and make it more easy to do this together. Thanks for walking with me today. I hope you'll spend some time doing this exercise and meet me over on the blog in the comments section to tell me your list and what you've learned from thinking about it from now and being able to consciously shift. And all the while we're getting closer being able to say, who are you really right now? And I've got so much more to talk about, new things to dive into in next week's practice and walk together. Thanks for being with me today. I'll see you guys next week.